Hey y'all, welcome to JustDabney Voice Notes, another podcast where I talk about random topics, some of which you might be interested in. Please don't forget to follow, like, subscribe, whatever you gotta do. We're available on all or most major platforms. So yeah, let's get into it. So, I wanted to talk about Black Mirror. Black Mirror is one of my favorite series on Netflix. I've been watching it since season 1. And I have to say that this latest season of Black Mirror was not that good. It was very underwhelming. It still delivered on, all of the Easter eggs, all of the hidden symbolism, the meanings behind things. It definitely delivered on that, but the sort of theme of it all was not delivering. And I do have a theory as to why that is. But let me go through some of the episodes. And by the way, it had more of a horror type vibe to it this season, actually dark horror, not sci-fi horror or glam horror or anything like that. So the first episode, Joan is Awful. It was basically about how, us as subscribers to these various streaming platforms, these various social media platforms, whatever, how we don't know what we're getting into when we join these platforms and agree to the terms of services, how our image can be used, basically what is happening now, which is our data can be used by these platforms to then sell to other people to then use for whatever purpose. And that's basically the theme. And so this is probably my favorite of all of the episodes. This, as well as I like Demon 79 as well. But yeah, so that was it. It was a really good opening episode, but again, it was still just underwhelming. And so then the second episode, Loch Henry, is about, documenting this horrific event that happened with the main characters, mother and father, being involved in this sort of kink. I don't want to say kink, that might not be the right word. They murdered people, but there was a kink associated with it. I'll just say that. And yeah, and so they found out the mother, killed herself. She left behind the tapes. The main character used those tapes to continue to film and edit the documentary. And he is also within the documentary. So basically, Joan is Awful and Loch Henry was kind of portraying how us as everyday people, our stories, our lives can be flipped. Either they are as entertaining as they're being presented, which would be the Loch Henry story, or they can be made to be more dramatic and more outlandish, which is what Joan is Awful was portraying. And how Netflix in particular, which again, Joan is Awful was basically, Streamberry. It was a copycat of basically what Netflix does, which is take people's stories, put them online, make it seem so dramatic, make it funny, make it entertaining. And then, but the issue is the people whose lives that these shows are either modeled after, or if they're Tiger King, which was the actual people in the story being in the documentary, not actors playing those people. But either way, it just tells you how the real people who these stories are modeling end up getting hurt in the end. And how we as the viewers are not that different from these people whose lives are being documented and put out there for entertainment, and that we can also be victims to this. And Joan is Awful had an additional theme of artificial intelligence and how, now I don't know if anybody recalls this, but when AI photography got really popular, it was probably earlier this year, people were like running to these apps to put a picture of them on the apps and have it transformed into AI versions. And little do they know, those images could or are being used to formulate other AI images that are against their will. And this happens, it's still happening. For example, there's been people complaining about how, people's images are being used for pornography, racy images, and they didn't consent to that at all. Or let's say you go through a random AI photo generator. You say you want a woman, you type in like a woman on the moon or something like that. And then, somebody's face comes up, but that face is modeled after a real person. Basically, what a lot of these AI photo generators do is they just grab images that are online and they mesh them together. They form these unique images, but the people in them, and many times the other images, whether it's animals or landscapes, those are actual photographs that you can find on Google. And even I've done this before where I've used the AI photo generator, and it will clearly be using another artist's photo because you can see their signature being generated in the photo. And so that is what I mean. It's like, so basically that is kind of what Jonas Awful is doing with these meta episodes of people. So anyways, and then there's Beyond the Sea, which was actually a decent episode. It's like I understand what they were doing, but I wasn't necessarily keen on the ending. And I should have said spoiler alert, but I feel like by now y'all know it's a spoiler alert. So it's basically the two astronauts they're real people, but they're living out in space. And in order to maintain their humanity, their sort of connection to the earthly plane, they can basically send their consciousness back down to Earth through, whatever technology. And so, but in the real world, back on Earth, when their consciousness is on Earth, they are in robot form, but they look human, if that makes sense. And it's kind of interesting because you really don't know which is which. Like, so it's basically, they're living in this alternative reality that's set back in the 60s or 70s. And, but that's neither here nor there. The actual thing is like, back in the day where like all these, I don't say back in the day, it's still happening, but like all these cult groups were forming, but in this case, the cult groups are around trying to stop robots or AI bots from infiltrating humanity. Like, they're not real people. They're of evil doings, like whatever. And so a cult group comes and kills one of the astronauts' families. And so the astronaut is still alive, his actual consciousness. When they killed the robot, they didn't kill him. He just now has that memory implanted of seeing his family die, of, seeing him go through that experience as if he's a real person on Earth. But now he has to live with that as a real astronaut in his real body back in space. So, if that makes sense. So, that's that. Eventually, he ends up going into the consciousness, transmitting his consciousness, I guess you can say, into the body of the other astronaut just to, because they were being nice. They just wanted him to sort of experience, some tranquility, to get his mind back together after his family passed away. So he used the other astronaut's body on Earth, robot body on Earth, to then sort of experience a different side, be on the countryside, relax, not be stuck out in the spaceship. And eventually he becomes crazy. I mean, he kind of was before that, but, he gets crazier, more obsessed with the wife. It becomes a thing where eventually he kills the wife after she says she doesn't want to see him anymore, because he was trying to like hit on her and stuff like that. So yeah, that's that. And so then, because they're on that spaceship to where it's a 2-man spaceship, like either one of them cannot have anything happen to them or the other will die, basically. And so after the astronaut kills the other astronaut's family, now they just have to like sit there and be in that spaceship together, or else they'll both die. And that's kind of like how it ends. And I don't really know what to think about it yet, because I know what the meaning is, but I don't know how important it is to me. It's like, as we progress through this technological era, we are going to be put in situations where we have to choose between sort of us as humans versus like what do we find comforting as humans versus what we are moving towards as more technologically advanced beings. And so it is a very interesting episode to be like, okay, they're going back and forth from Earth to the spaceship. That is where their consciousness is traveling, but their human body is still moving forward in space. It is still traveling towards our future selves, which is probably going to be robots, just consciousness within robots, sentient. Like that is ultimately, if you think about it, where we'll be heading as humans if we keep up with the trajectory when it comes to AI robots. And so that was interesting, but yeah, that was pretty much it. It was a good episode, but again, underwhelming. Then there was Maisie Day, which was not my favorite. It was more like, it was about paparazzis, basically, the invasion of privacy and how celebrities deal with that, basically. I feel like the wolf, the celebrity in question, the main character turning into a wolf, chasing down the paparazzi who has the camera with a photo of her, which is basically kind of what celebrities do now when there's a damaging photo out. Basically, like we all heard of it, like celebrities trying to, either do something harmful or, try to buy the photograph back, buy the people off to stop them from releasing it, blah, blah, blah. And how we're now getting into that era where like it doesn't matter. Like the paying off of paparazzi is like they would be more at an advantage no matter what the celebrity paid, like, because at the end of the day it's all about clout. It's not necessarily about the money anymore. At least that's kind of what I got from it. There is a much deeper meaning, but again, it's just one of those episodes. It was just not my favorite. And then the last episode, Demon 79, was one of my favorites. It was the more relatable one, I guess I'll say, because you have this girl. She's an immigrant. And she's in England. They have discrimination against her. She wasn't treated like everybody else. She had rude coworkers, just people being racist and xenophobic or whatever. typical. And then, so she gets in a situation where she finds this piece of, I don't know, like a stone with a symbol on it. Turns out to be a devilish symbol. Like, so when her blood touched that. Hey, thank you so much for making it this far in the podcast. But if you want to listen to the rest, please check the link in the description where you can find all the other places where the podcast is hosted, or you can just simply listen for free on anchor.fm. Bye.